Hello there guys, and welcome to another Power Rangers base review. This one right here is actually based around some custom figures that I have created. They are custom vinyl figures which I've made using this substance called Model Magic. And if you don't know what that is, or you haven't seen any of my previous videos where I mention Model Magic, it's a kind of air-drying clay. I remember using it quite a lot when I was a kid, and I haven't used it very often in the past couple of years, but there have been a few cases where I would get some because I had some ideas on stuff that I could create using it. And one instance is that I was able to create custom vinyl figures of the extra 4 Rangers that appeared in Power Rangers Dino Charge, as well as Dino Supercharge, as well as the Japanese source material Zyuden Sentai Kyoryuger. Now, the vinyl figures that I have created right here are all based around what we have by the end of Dino Supercharge. I didn't create a female version of the Aqua Ranger, which only has appeared in Kyoryuger, by the way. They didn't adapt the story of the powers of the Aqua and Graphite Ranger being passed down by the end of the series. In fact, in Dino Charge, they only did that with the Purple Ranger because, well, the other 3 happened at the end of the series, while the Purple Ranger happened during the series. And because of that, and given as to how we have more screen time with the female Purple Ranger, that was what ended up being used in Power Rangers Dino Charge, where they had the story of Albert Smith bonding to the Purple Energem and becoming the Purple Ranger. But then there was the story where he was scared to fight monsters, and so he surrendered his Energem, and Kendall, the scientist working with the Power Rangers, eventually bonded to the Purple Energem herself. And that worked out well, considering that the Dino Charge team only had 1 female member already. And speaking of which, here is the Kyoryu Pink vinyl figure. Of course, in Power Rangers, this is Shelby, but of course, this is the Japanese vinyl figure that I purchased from Japan off of eBay. And when I was making the Purple Ranger figure, I actually used the Pink Ranger figure for height comparison, because I wanted to be sure that the Purple Ranger and the Pink Ranger were about the same height, although comparing the female Kyuranger vinyl figures to Kyoryu Pink is slightly taller than the chameleon green and washy pink vinyl figures. I'm not quite sure why that is, though, but that is the case right there. But I wanted to have the Purple Ranger be about the same height as the Pink Ranger. And the same case also goes for the other Rangers, who are all male in this instance, because I wanted it to be based around the finalized version of the Dino Charge Rangers. And there's nothing here from Kyoryuger that didn't get adapted into Power Rangers. This is all based around what we do end up getting in Power Rangers. And for the Purple Ranger figure, well, for all of them, I tried to make the arms be a bit movable by using these toothpicks to keep the arms steady. As you can see there, you can see moving the arm up and down. I don't really like to do it so much, but I wanted to be able to have them be movable, just as you do with the actual vinyl figures that you got right here. So there's that, and, you know, had to get the details on the helmet. It's not really all that great looking, but it was the best that I could do. Also getting the eyes on the side, and also getting the emblem of the Plesiosaurus on the chest. Although the thing here is that with all of these figures, I also had to add some extra model magic to the feet to be sure that she was tall enough, or all of them were tall enough, because in comparison, they were actually much shorter after the model magic had dried, so I had to add some extras to the feet to lengthen their height. I'm doing a number of different cuts because, as I mentioned in some of my earlier review videos, the camera will stop recording automatically after some time, so to be sure that I get everything that I need to say recorded, I need to do a number of different cuts. But anyway, I've decided to take out the rest of the figures and focus only on one at a time, although I've already focused on the Purple Ranger figure. This here is the Graphite Ranger, also known as Kyoryu Gray, from Zyuden Sentai Kyoryuger. And, you know, I really do not quite understand why they decided to have him be referred to as the Graphite Ranger in the Power Rangers adaptation. I guess they thought that a Gray Ranger would not really work out, at least as far as the name sounds. Although, Graphite Ranger kind of sounds like it could be the name given to a 6th Ranger, which they may do in a future series. I guess it just depends on whether or not Toei does introduce a gray-colored Ranger as the 6th Ranger in a future installment of the Super Sentai series. At the time of the recording of this video, we only have the announcement that Ryusoger is going to be coming out, although we do have the images of the 5 main Rangers, which of course are the same colors as the 5 main Rangers in Kyoryuger. If there are other Rangers that are introduced in Ryusoger, they have not been announced yet. We have not gotten the announcement on the 6th Ranger of the team. If you're watching this after they have announced it, then you know what color that Ranger is going to be, but from the time period of the recording of this video, that information has not been released yet. So anyway, for this, I pretty much mixed a number of different colors together, such as using some gray model magic, as well as a couple of blue, because the Graphite Ranger was slightly bluish in some of the American filmed scenes in Dino Charge, and the outer points right here are actually a standard gray color, rather than silver, which you could get if you mixed gray and white together. And I also used a couple of some orange and yellow model magic put together to try to create this gold lining, because the Graphite Ranger, as well as the Aqua Ranger, had gold on their sashes. The explanation in Kyoryuger was because they were actually spirits that were existing in the present day with no physical body, and they could morph into Rangers, and the gold slash compared to the usual yellow ones was a result of them being spirits rather than being actual living Rangers. While their successors at the end of the series was different, where they did have yellow sashes, but of course this is based on what we got in Power Rangers, and we only got the spirit version of the suits. There's no explanation given as to why the gold sashes are on their suits in Power Rangers. It's probably just a different variation of the suit. It doesn't have to all be the same. But they don't ever give any explanation for why the color of the sash on the suit is different. But in Kyoryuger, they actually do give an explanation for that. But, you know, no such explanation in Power Rangers. And, you know, I pretty much had to work around making the face on the helmet, you know, being the the Pachyssaur, that's it. The Pachysaurus, is it? Is that what this dinosaur is called? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, there is the custom vinyl figure of the Graphite Ranger, or Kyoryu Gray, as he was called in Dino Charge. next up is the Aqua Ranger, which was one of the two Rangers that wasn't shown in the first season of Power Rangers, the other being the Silver Ranger, which we will look at next. And here we have a family reunion, father and son. Because, you know, in Power Rangers, Dino Supercharge rather, since this Ranger was not introduced until the Super season, Tyler had mentioned, the Red Ranger had mentioned that his dad had gone missing 10 years ago from that time period. And, you know, with his dad going on a cave exploration and disappearing, not coming home for 10 years, Tyler was searching for his dad for quite some time. And in a twist, it turned out that his dad actually bonded to the Aqua Energem and became the Aqua Ranger, which was quite a big reveal when they aired that episode where, you know, where Tyler's dad is revealed to be alive, but also revealed to be the Aqua Ranger. Now, the thing here is that they actually did not officially confirm that Tyler's dad was the Aqua Ranger until the episode actually aired. There wasn't any announcement saying, Tyler's dad is the Aqua Ranger. There were, however, a few rumors that were going around, and those rumors turned out to be true. But there was no official confirmation on Tyler's dad being the Aqua Ranger until the episode actually did air. So, which goes in contrast to the Silver Ranger, which we will speak about next. Now, of course, in Kyoryuger, the Aqua Ranger started out as a male ranger, but then at the end of the series, the powers were passed down to a female user of the powers, but in a Dino Charge, the Aqua Ranger was male all the way through. So, there's that right there. Now, as for making the figure right here, the sides on it, you know, the spikes, since this is an Ankylosaurus-based Ranger. And if you see the background moving over in the back right there, it's because my cat went behind the blanket. She's tunneling through the blanket. So that was pretty good that she didn't step onto the set. So yeah. Oh, and another thing, when making the figure, I actually used toothpicks to get the legs to stand up. And the same case is also done for the Silver Ranger, which we will get to right now. And finally, here we are with the last of the Rangers that was introduced in the show. This is the Silver Ranger. This is the 10th Ranger that was introduced in the show, and probably the most interesting one of them, and also probably the hardest to stand up, at least on a carpet floor anyway. This here is the Dino Charge Silver Ranger, also known as, Kyoryu Silver in Kyoryuger. Now, the extraordinary thing about the Silver Ranger in both series is that the Ranger in normal in demorphed form, he was actually not a human character. He was actually a large bird. Of course, the background of this bird was different between versions. In Kyoryuger, he actually was the mentor of the Rangers, but in Dino Charge, Keeper was the mentor, while the bird was his apprentice, and the one that got to become the Silver Ranger. The storyline for the Silver Ranger between different versions is, of course, different, not just with the character, but also with the use of the Silver Ranger powers, such as someone using them for evil. In Dino Charge, the story for the Silver Ranger was that Zenowing, which was the Silver Ranger's name in Power Rangers, after he had bonded to the Silver Energem and became the Silver Ranger, he was captured by Lord Arcanon, one of the main villains of the series, and he was infected by the Dark Energem, which created Doomwing, an evil other half of Zenowing. And Doomwing was able to become the Silver Ranger by using the Silver Energem in his sword and being able to transform into the Silver Ranger and use transmissions to the other Rangers to gain their trust and, you know, supply the Zord information, which was what led to Lord Arcanon and his henchmen using the Ranger Zords by creating their own Dino Chargers to summon the Zords, which was very surprising to the Rangers because they wondered that the Silver Ranger had betrayed them. And of course, they then later do encounter the Silver Ranger in person, and, you know, the Silver Ranger tries to pretend that he's not evil. He pretends that he was forced to work for Lord Arcanon, up until revealing that he never created a Titanocharger, but the Rangers picked up a Titanocharger from Lord Arcanon when he escaped during the last battle, and then he fought against the Rangers, and right before he was about to finish them, he suddenly demorphed and then transformed into Zenowing, who explains that he was cursed. And then the Rangers figure out a way to separate them, and of course, without Zenowing, Doomwing couldn't become the Silver Ranger anymore, but Zenowing still needed to get the Silver Energem back so he could become the Silver Ranger. And he is able to get the Silver Energem back from Doomwing and become the Silver Ranger again, and then manages to destroy Doomwing, which is pretty good. While the story in the story in Kyoryuger is different in that Doomwing's counterpart actually didn't become the Silver Ranger. In fact, they weren't even fused like they were in Dino Supercharged. The story instead is that Doomwing's counterpart was a replacement to Zenowing, because in the original Sentai, Zenowing was actually a rebellious member of the D-Bus army, which were the villains of the series, and Doomwing was basically his new evil doppelganger. And, you know, Doomwing only served the purpose of being a villain rather than an evil ranger. Well, the role of the evil Silver Ranger in this version is actually the Red Ranger's father. In Kyoryuger, they actually switched it between the father of the Red Ranger being Silver to Aqua, which is quite an interesting change that they have made. But anyway, in the episode, or around the end of the series, Red's father actually kills Zenowing's counterparts, and then takes the powers of the Silver Ranger and becomes the Silver Ranger himself and fights against the other Rangers, which was the footage that became the footage of Doomwing fighting the Rangers. It's interesting how they changed things up, although in Kyoryuger, I forgot to mention, is that while Doomwing was legitimately an evil ranger in the episode Silver Secret, Red's father in the original Sentai was actually faking being a villain, and there was actually a good cause for why he struck Zenowing down, which was so he could help defeat some of the defeated monsters that were in the afterlife, to prevent them from coming back to life. When making this figure right here, it was probably quite a lot of work in getting this one made. Now, of course, I wanted to have it be a much brighter silver color in comparison to, well, the standard gray color. And I was able to do that by mixing some gray and white model magic together to create the color that you see. And of course, in contrast to the other Rangers, the Silver Ranger has gold accents on his suit, because all the others have silver as the accents of their suits. So for the Silver Ranger, they gave him gold accents instead. And as far as the yellow lining on the helmet is concerned, I wasn't able to get teeth all around on the helmet right there. There should be some all the way on each side, but I wasn't able to get them all on there. So I do apologize for that. But, you know, I think I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, mostly. I was able to get the hump on the head of the helmet, since this is supposed to be based around a Titanosaurus. And okay, my cat is planning on tunneling through the blanket again. But anyway, I'm quite happy with with the way that this came out right here. Now, personally, I think that I like the story arc of the Silver Ranger in Dino Supercharge a lot better in comparison to Kyoryuger, because I really find that the whole idea of actually having Doomwing be the evil Silver Ranger was quite clever, considering the storyline that they had created with the Energems not bonding to an evil spirit, and having Doomwing be able to become the Silver Ranger using Zenowing's bonded spirit. So, I really gotta say, that has gotta be one of the best, or one of the better Sentai to Power Rangers story changes that they have done there. Now here I have all 10 of the Ranger figures together in a group. Here's aqua, green, purple, black, silver, red, gold, graphite, pink, and blue, all together as a group. And I gotta say, this is probably one of the most interesting teams, Ranger teams, in both Sentai and Power Rangers that has been made to date. And while I will say that I personally like the colors of Zyuden Sentai Kyoryuger a lot more, considering that there's a lot more colors to show, while here we only have, well, just 10 colors with 10 Rangers in general. But I gotta say, this has got to be probably one of the most interesting seasons of Super Sentai, as well as one of the most interesting seasons of Power Rangers to date. And I'm really glad that they actually did get this season adapted into Power Rangers. It certainly was a series that they were right to adapt, you know, regardless of how soon they did it. But, you know, adapting a season a lot sooner than you would expect was pretty good, you know, with them actually skipping over Go Busters originally and having this be adapted in 2015. And, you know, of course later we get Go Busters adapted into Beast Morphers for 2019. But, you know, getting the series adapted was probably a huge step that Saban made during their time, during the Neo-Saban era. Because even though they did have to skip a season in order to get to this one, that was a pretty huge move and something that was very unexpected of them to do, because I bet they knew that dinosaurs would be such a huge hit. I would have to say the Dino Charge has got to be the best season that has come out during the Neo-Saban era. I personally find it to be much better than the other ones. I find it to be better than Megaforce and Samurai, as well as Ninja Steel, although I would probably say that Ninja Steel was the second best of the Neo-Saban era, and I'm sure that a lot of people will agree with me on that, because some people didn't like Megaforce, and I'm sure that there were some people that did like Samurai, but not as much. But I pretty much would have to say that Dino Charge was the best of the Neo-Saban era. And I actually do like both seasons. You know, I've heard that there are some people that didn't like the second half of the series, Dino Supercharge, but I personally found Dino Supercharge to be okay. So, there's that right there. So anyway, quite a shame that they didn't make vinyl figures of all of these Rangers officially, and that I had to create customs in order to have all 10 of them, but I think that it was well worth creating all of the custom figures in order to get these. Now the question here is, will I actually do a vinyl figure based on the Dark Ranger, or Death Ranger as he was called? Not the Talon Ranger, that was just a rumored name, by the way. Officially, it's called the Dark Ranger. Maybe I will do that at some point, but, you know, he didn't appear in the actual show. I know that he appears in the comic book, or he's going to appear in the comic books. I don't know if he's already appeared in the comic books, because I do not read the comic books. I just watch the show. So thank you so much for watching, and I would strongly encourage you to also try doing custom figures yourself, whether it be using the actual real figures or using some other you know, some other material in creating these figures. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.